For a while now, I've wanted to cover the topic of misunderstandings that propagate themselves across the gender divide in feminism, and some issues with the way people talk about some terminology. But I've never really found the particular impetus to do it. But finally today I saw something that actually made me want to sit down and say, you know what, this is exactly the point that I'd like to tackle. And it came in the form of all things a Kotaku article. I know, you are all correctly rolling your eyes like, oh man, he's reading the comments section on Kotaku, what an absolute idiot. But hear me out, I'm going somewhere with this. So, Kotaku has an article about, what the hell is it, Pocket Waifu? Some stupid porn sex game where you, literally pay women to fuck you or something. I don't know. I didn't really read the whole article. I don't give a shit. If I want to watch actual porn, I'm just going to go watch actual porn. But, it's talking about the inherent misogynistic attitude toward women portrayed in the game where you just do things for them and they reward you with sex, which is a perfectly correct stance to be taking, but at the same time, the game is really not trying to portray realistic women, it's trying to sell a fuck fantasy, and there's nothing wrong with having or selling a fuck fantasy as long as you can accept the fact that it has no bearing in or correlation with real life, it is just a fuck fantasy. However, there's a point in one of the comments that I wanted to address, and the commenter's name is Arnheim. So Arnheim, if you're listening to this, I'm making this recording for you, and for anyone else who might be listening. Wow, I should have brought water with me. And for the record, I'm not trying to dig at you here. Not at all. I'm just hoping to clear some stuff up. But here's a pair of paragraphs that Arnheim has written in this comments section that I think are really telling about the ways people think about certain terms. And let me read the parts to you. So Arnheim writes, "The idea that women are some kind of mystical creature that requires knowledge of the Stygian abyss to understand is a myth that has been perpetuated by men of all types in all groups since time immemorial. A particular subset of gamers, however, have found a way to codify that myth into an accepted standard of behaviors. See also nice guys, the friend zone, incels, and a pastiche of other horrid shit that totals out to a single word: misogyny." End quote. There's a lot to unpack there, and it's worth unpacking. But the point I want to make is that terms like nice guys and the friend zone do have meanings that aren't misogynistic, or they're not intended to be. That's not the way those words were conceived of. And to do that, I'd like to start by describing what actually the friend zone is. See, a lot of people incorrectly think of the word friend zone as meaning a guy who's wrongfully denied sex by a woman who he's done nice things for. A guy who's checked off all the check marks on his how to get bitches guide and she's not reciprocating, so he's stuck in the friend zone. That's not really what the friend zone is. That's what shitheads on the internet have twisted the term into as it's gone on and been used in discourse by people who don't really know what the term is supposed to actually mean. And the problem is that this is countered by a lot of feminist thinkers who tell you, well, that's bullshit. There's no such thing as the friend zone. You never had a chance to begin with and you're just an asshole, which is also wrong. The friend zone is when two people, a man and a woman, misunderstand each other. They don't correctly interpret each other's signals. So here's what I mean by this. Actually, I gotta go off on a little bit of a tangent, but bear with me, I'm gonna come back to the point. So men typically don't seek friendship with women. Platonic friendship, I mean. Unless it's under a very specific set of circumstances. For example, I actually do have a platonic girlfriend who I bonded with in high school very closely because back then we were a bunch of emo kids and loved My Chemical Romance, and we were like, man, this band is the greatest thing ever. And as much as I want to cringe back at those days, I am very grateful for the friendship that we've developed out of it. But barring certain circumstances like that, for the most part, men typically seek companionship with mostly men, whereas women don't typically view things that way. Women are happy to make friends with anybody because they're just friendly and outgoing, and they don't see a problem with having friends across the gender divide. But the question is, why is this? Look at the ways that society pressures the genders to react. And I know I'm glossing over transgender issues right now, and I'm sorry for that. But for the sake of simplicity and for the sake of the argument and the example, just roll with me here on a binary model, and it can be expanded to include transgender and genderqueer folks at some other time. So men are traditionally pushed, or not traditionally, men are recently pushed away from traditional masculine values. These days, the things that you would traditionally associate with masculinity are often seen as taboo or as uncouth or undesirable. You know, the young attitude of boys will be boys and, play cops and robbers and fight each other and wrestle and do dangerous things. Those activities are seen as dangerous and they're curtailed in youth. So boys are pushed away from the traditional masculine behaviors, whereas women are pushed toward traditional feminine behaviors. If a woman in school, or I should say a young girl in school, is playing with dolls or reading or doing things that are considered traditionally effeminate, no one is going to push them away from those behaviors. In fact, those behaviors are going to be encouraged because they're docile, they're safe. Not even in a sense of those characteristics being good for a feminine sense, but society in general is trying to breed a more docile type of person in all genders, which is problematic for its own reasons, but that's a different topic for another time. But the point I'm coming away with here is that women are encouraged to act womanly and men are encouraged to not act masculinely. But the fact of the matter is that men are men, and men often want to do masculine things. Men want to crack open a cold one with the boys. Men want to fuck around in their man cave and play PS4 and watch porn and all that other stuff that men like to do a lot of the time. And to get that release from the societal judgment of men for their masculine behaviors, men often turn to other men for companionship. If 5 dudes are hanging out in a basement, they don't have to worry about being judged for acting like dudes. They get to do whatever they want. They get to be as uncouth as they want, make as many fart jokes as they want, and be as gross as they want. And nobody's there to tell them that those behaviors are wrong or chastise them or make them feel embarrassed for them. Women don't face that same amount of pressure. They do in a professional sense. Oftentimes you hear stories in the workplace of women being told completely unfairly that they're intimidating their male colleagues or some other line of PR bullshit because they've decided to show a little initiative and be good employees in the workplace and have ambition. And in that professional sense, women are absolutely discriminated against for showing what we would consider a traditional male value. But on a personal level, outside of the workplace, a woman who acts womanly is a great woman. A woman who acts masculinely, may be seen as a little bit of a butch tomboy, but first of all, a lot of men really like that. And second of all, even if they don't, it's not considered quite as undesirable as like a rough and tumble manly man is often considered. A macho man is considered a lot more dangerous or deviant or gross than a tomboy. Because of this, women find it much easier to cross the friendship gender divide, to make friends with men or women, because in friendship speak, in a sense of non-professional, free time, how people are looking at you, women are not being judged in quite the same way as men are for abiding by certain values. So let's rein it back into the friend zone thing here. So men seek friendship with men predominantly because they're trying to escape judgment from the rest of society for being boys, for being men. Women don't face quite the same pressure outside of a workplace context all the time. I mean, obviously that's not 100% the case. Obviously, there are going to be douchebags who tell women that they have to act a certain way and blah, blah, blah. Fuck those guys. But, the trend on the large is that men face that kind of pressure a lot more, mainly, if for no other reason than the fact that women will find them unattractive, and they don't want that. So men are not really looking to approach women with friendship in mind, because men are seeking friendship with those with whom they can escape the judgment of women, with those with whom they can escape the judgment of society at large. Women will seek friendship with those who they think would make good friends, and there's not really a whole lot more thought put into it. So when a man approaches a woman, 95% of the time, it's because he's romantically interested in her, or at the very least, wants to explore the possibility of taking things in that direction. Maybe he's not sure yet. Maybe he thinks she's pretty, wants to take her out on a date to get to know more about her. Or some other, vaguely, maybe this chick could date me kind of reason. Women, on the other hand, often don't see things in this light. If a man asks them to grab a beer after work, they may think, he wants to be friends. We're coworkers in the same company. Maybe he's just looking to get to know me or, go out for a networking thing or whatever. So oftentimes, women accept this invitation with the idea that this is just the steps to friendship, because they don't see him as a potential romantic interest at all, and he never had any chance in the first place. But he doesn't know this yet. So they go out and they do their thing, and the man is, in his head, ticking off all the boxes that will lead him down, the path of romance. He's being really nice, he's paying for her dinner, he's he's telling a lot of jokes and making her laugh, and he's doing all these things that he thinks are starting to build a romantic connection, whereas she just thinks that he's a really fun guy and they're going to be great friends. And this is where the friend zone kicks in. They're misunderstanding each other's signals. The woman thinks that the man is approaching her for the sake of friendship, and the man thinks that the woman is sticking around him for the sake of potential romance, and neither is making it particularly clear to the other that that's the case. The man is trying to be subtle and look for her signals and think, maybe she likes me. And the woman is completely oblivious to his signals because she thinks that this is all the building blocks of friendship. So they're sitting there going tit for tat, each working toward the incorrect goal. Each working toward a goal that the other one doesn't realize the other one is working toward. In other words, it takes two to tango and there's 4 left feet between you. So that's what the friendship zone is. It's not some malevolent, this woman isn't, reciprocating for me after all that I did for her. It's also not this, curse that men fall under. It's just a 2-party misunderstanding of what the end goals of this relationship are. Now, the other one I wanted to talk about is the nice guys. And actually, I kind of touched on the nice guys thing in that whole rant. The nice guy archetype, the nice guy, is somebody who has grown up looking at examples of chivalry and gentlemanliness, where, in movies and in books, men do nice things for women and are proportionally rewarded with romance. The gentleman holds open the door and tells funny jokes and lays his jacket down on the floor so a woman can cross a puddle, and holds the umbrella for her and treats her to dinner, and in return she falls in love with him. And, for many men, they have no one telling them that, look, romance isn't that cut and dry. Women don't like guys just because they're nice. Nice people are a dime a dozen. Women want men who are funny and exciting and interesting and fun to be around and attractive. Women want men that, are interesting to be with. They don't want you just because you're nice. You can flip a coin and it'll point in the direction of a nice person. It's not hard to be nice. You just have to be a decent human being. But a lot of these guys don't really get it, because unfortunately, the examples they've been brought up on reinforce the idea that romance is a currency, and that romance can be earned if you're just nice enough to ladies. But, they don't understand that that isn't the case. Romance isn't a currency. It's a luck-based thing. It's a spark that develops out of 2 people who just happen to find a mutual attraction in each other. And these pick-up douchebag artists who try to sell men on the 6 steps to get laid at the bar every night reinforce the idea that if you tick off the right boxes and say the right thing at the right time, women will just throw their panties at you. But that is not how the world works. And these poor guys who are under this impression and have been conned their whole lives are the nice guys. They are the guys who believe that as long as they're nice enough to the right lady, they'll just get sex. Incel just means involuntary celibate. That term is making fun of men. It's not making fun of women. I don't know why incel has become a term for misogyny. It's the opposite. Incels are involuntarily celibate guys. I don't know how that came out. But anyway, obviously I'm sure that most of you will probably disagree with me, and I'm sure this is good. If this ever were to get anywhere, which I doubt it will, I'll probably face tons of backlash. But I hope that maybe someday men and women will actually start hearing each other out instead of making each other out to be the enemy. I hope that feminist rhetoric stops painting men as the enemy when they're really supposed to be painting men as allies whom they haven't recruited yet, because that's the idea. If you go in with the idea that this person is your enemy, you're never going to sway them to your side. If your writing calls out men and calls them chauvinistic pieces of shit, you're not going to get them to see things your way. You're going to radicalize them against you. And that's the really unfortunate folly of modern feminism, is that women these days seem to want to spend more time radicalizing men and calling them all evil, misogynist, chauvinistic pigs than actually showing them gently why the things they think about women are all wrong. And this is what has led to the rise of fuckers like the MRA and, whatever shitheads are coming out of the corners of the internet. And the red pillars or whatever. So anyway, that's my unwanted Monday night rant. I hope that maybe somebody would listen to this and think that, maybe the French zone isn't as evil or false as some people would think it is. But anyway, that's it. Have a good one.